just had this sort of real depth of sort of imposter syndrome about me, right? I'm a confidence coach, can't even go online myself. Social media thing kind of, doesn't help with that, because most people always see their edited show reels, right? We shouldn't compare our real lives with other people's edited highlights, I guess. With any challenges, really, I need to just stop sort of coming up from here and overthinking, and just come from here and just, what do I need? What needs to happen here? When we come out of our comfort zones, we realize what we can really do. And it's only the fear and the thinking that often holds us back. And a coaching session doesn't have to be bam, bam, do this, do that, bam, bam. So often, some of the most powerful sessions are just space. The main sort of symptoms probably lasted about 2 to 3 weeks. But then after that, it left me with a massive lack of confidence. And that manifested itself by being depression, anxiety, and then as I got a bit better, panic attacks, and even agoraphobia. I didn't want to go out of the house, didn't want to see people socially, just wanting to stay in bed all the time. In fact, one doctor even said to me, "You've got this for life now." And I thought, as I realized and came out of it, I thought, well, that's not good enough for me. I want to find another way. So I did, and I haven't had it since. If you ever think you've got no value, go and do something for someone else. That's what a coach does, really, is they speed up the process. So it doesn't mean you're never going to get there on your own, but a coach will speed up the process. So if you don't know the alternative, you don't really have a choice, but if you know the alternative, then you can make that choice. I love you. That's what I would say to them. And you should love you as much as I do. Nobody is above you and nobody is below you. The ultimate confidence is being you.
Let your light shine. Help others find their way out of the darkness. Extraordinarily inspiring stories from ordinary people like you and I.
I've been following your post actually for a little while, and I thought, oh wow, this man's just so beautiful, and the words that you use, I love. It's one of my favorite words. So thank you so much.
You're so welcome, Annie. Thank you for reaching out and connecting. It's really interesting because I've been sort of coaching for, it's coming up to my 10th year now. Coach people with being them, being confident and things. And back at the very early part of the year, maybe later part of last year, I just had this sort of real depth of sort of imposter syndrome about me, right? I would be writing some posts and things and just not really feeling it. And then I would be going to go online, or even actually just recording a video to go online, not necessarily going on live, and just getting all of that, heart fluttering in your chest and, oh my goodness. And I was sort of thinking to myself, well, I'm a confidence coach. How can I be, it just didn't sit with me. If I can't even go online myself, what's going on here? And I think a little bit of that was probably COVID. So my coaching before that was all face-to-face. And so during that period, I sort of shifted more to online. I mean, I had Facebook things before, but I wasn't coaching before like that. I sort of got still about it, which is what I generally do if with any challenges, really. I need to just stop sort of coming up from here and overthinking, and just come from here and just, what do I need? What needs to happen here? And I started, posting a little bit more video content, posting a little bit more, and it all just started to build, which would be the way that I would work with clients, right? We don't have to jump from like here to here. We can sort of, do it step by step. When we come out of our comfort zones, we realize what we can really do. And it's only the fear and the thinking that often holds us back, So the big part that's often missing with people is the action step. And that's probably because it's the hardest thing, because we can think, oh yeah, I'm going to do this, going to do that, whatever. We can sort of intellectually picture that, if you like. But then to go and do it is the bit that makes the difference. So I started doing it, and I got a little bit better again at it, got more familiar with it. It was like sort of like a muscle that had withered away, and now I was sort of rebuilding it, and then a Tony Robbins group, where they ran a live video challenge, and they wanted to do a 30-day a 30-day live video. So you went on live every day for 30 days straight. And I thought, and again, this same sort of feeling, whenever we're breaking through to a new area, these feelings come in again, right? Oh, I don't know whether I can do that. I'm doing this, but I don't know whether I can do that. So just the same process. So I just thought, no, I'm on this path to shine here. That was the other thing. It's about the service, because if I'm keeping everything to myself, it's not helping anyone. You've got to push through this uncomfortableness, Chris. This is the way it works. Anything new, we have that uncomfortable period, don't we? So I thought, okay, let's just dive in. Yep, I'll do this. I'll do this 30-day live challenge. And I think the group at that time had about 50,000 people in it. But I think I may be wrong here, but I believe there was sort of a few hundred people that took up that challenge. And a really interesting thing happened there, because there's a lot of sort of coaches in the group. There's all sorts of people, but there's a lot of coaches. And so people were coming on and making these little videos about, I suppose you could call them life hacks, if you like, as a term, or ways to do things, or what they've learned. And there was a lot of great content there. And then you sort of go into this sort of comparison mode, and you sort of think, oh my goodness me, they're putting that. So then the pressure part, we can pile, and the pressure wasn't piling on, but I was piling the pressure on, right? Which again is something I see so much, we pile the pressure on ourselves. So I thought, okay, well, let's just do this. And I started by, the first day that I did that, I think it took me about 30 minutes to go live, because I was having all these things in my head. Do I say this? No, that's not going to be useful. What about that? No, that's going to make me look this. What about that? That's going to, and all these sort of, thoughts that a lot of us get when we try something new, and we're outside of our comfort zone. We haven't got that safety blanket, if you like, of our familiarity. So the first few posts, I can't remember all the posts, but the first few posts were probably something about a particular technique or a particular skill or a particular tool or something like that, or a particular, sometimes I would do a quote and things and talk around that. But then after a while, I just thought, even this isn't really shining. This isn't really helping people. And I wanted to help the people. I noticed that there was just this quite small number of people doing these videos out of this massive group. And I thought, how can I help them to get on? So I thought, well, what I'm going to do is I'm going to be even more real now. So it wasn't just the shining, it was the authentic shining. And I'm just going to come on. And there was one day, and I just had no idea what to say. And I thought, I don't know what I'm going to talk about, but I need to do this thing because I've committed to 30 days, right? And I just came on and I said, I thought, that's it. I'm just going to press record. Press live. So it's live. I'm just going to press live and see what happens. So I went on, and I can't remember exactly what I said, but it was something like, oh, hi, it's Chris here. I've got no idea what I'm going to say today, but I committed to do the 30 days. So I'm just on here live. Let's see what happens, and I encourage you to do the same, because once you let go of all that, and once you just come on, then your brain knows, and that you can do that. And then you can come on and do the other stuff afterwards if you want, but at least get started, and this is, real. So I had nothing to say, but it turned out it was almost one of the, most important things I could have said. And a few people messaged me and said, oh, thanks so much for that, because I was overthinking it and, and trying to think of all these things. And I said, just come on and say, it turned out to be a joke, which I didn't intend at the time, but I just said, come on and say, hi, I'm Chris from the UK. This is me, sort of thing. I said, well, don't say that unless you are Chris from the UK, because that would be weird. but the idea was just come on and say your name, say hi, say where you're from, and that's it, and then just finish, you know, because I think they'd put a and this can happen to us so often as well. They'd put a time limit on it, or not time limit, a suggested time of I think 2 to 3 minutes or something, which I guess was they didn't want people on there for hours, right? But I think also it probably put a lot of people under pressure to think, wow, 2 minutes, you know, if I could do 5 seconds maybe, but 2 minutes is a long time. So I'm like encouraging them to do 5 seconds, you know. Fortunately, they didn't kick me off for it. You know, I'm just saying, look, if you don't want to do 2 minutes, come on and do 5 seconds, or, you know, whatever, because that's going to help you take those first steps and get into the routine of doing it and realize and sort of get calm about it. You know, you sort of, now you know, you don't have to think about it now you know you can do it, and then you can just move on from there. So that happened, and then they did run a challenge, and another coach just messaged me and said, "Oh, Chris, you realise you need to look at their advert or their little commercial for this challenge." So I looked at the commercial, and they'd used a little clip of one of my videos on their commercial. So where I'm just kind of saying, you don't have to be professional. I think my lines were something like, you don't have to be really professional about this, and if you're not sure about that, look at my videos. So it was just encouraging people not to be hung up on being perfect, really. You know, just come on, be them, and that's, you know, the best way we can connect.
That's the whole thing. I don't even have anything written down. It's whatever comes, and we just go with the flow. And I call Let Your Light Shine. It's really a podcast about, it's extraordinarily inspiring stories from ordinary people like you and I. And so that's, absolutely. And I used to consider, like you said, all the people, you know, very successful, famous, and we've done this and done that, as in, oh wow, look up to them. And now I look at everybody the same. I don't feel I am better or worse than anyone else. So I'm the same.
There's a little quote that comes to mind, actually, a confidence quote, and it's sort of an anonymous one. I'm not sure who said it. Don't walk into a room thinking that you're better than anyone else. You're just walk into the room not having to compare yourself anyway. You know, so basically you're just be you. You know, comes back to the same thing. Just be you. Social media thing kind of, you know, doesn't help with that, because, you know, most people, all we see are their edited show reels, right? You know, the holidays and the cars and the houses and the happy families and all that. And so, and then when we're sort of watching them, you know, noticing that all of the time, you know, every post you see, you think, well, my last holiday wasn't like that, you know, or, you know, even at a little subconscious level, or, you know, my family didn't do that, you know, they're not as happy as this, or, you know, this perfect family Christmas or whatever, you know, like that. So, which is lovely, and you know, all of those things probably are true, but they're edited, you know, they're their highlights, right? So we shouldn't compare our real lives with other people's edited highlights, I guess.
That's very human, though. It's human.
It is very human.
Yeah, to look at someone else and then wondering whether I'm doing it right.
It's a one way of growth, right? Isn't it? You know, we have examples of people, you know, and then we can be like them, and that can give us some sort of growth. But one of the sayings that I really just don't like, and I think it's disempowering actually, is fake it till you make it. All the time you're faking it, you're not being it, you know, you're not being yourself. And also you're kind of giving yourself this message that faking it is okay. So when do you stop that, right? So, you know, you fake it till you make it, then you make it. And so when do you stop faking it, if faking it's okay? Oh, well, okay, so now I want to do this, so let's fake that. And you're just living a shadow of your brilliant life. So I say, instead, I just say, be it till you make it. You know, and that, so you can just be whatever it is you want to be. You can be that person now, and be you.
Yeah, be the future, or the person you want to be, or you can. Yeah,
start right now.
No, I love
just start right now. You know, you don't have to fake that. Just start right now being the person you want to be. You know, when you started your sort of podcast journey, you didn't sort of fake it. You just got on with it, I guess is the words I'm going to use. you know, and that's why we're here now, right? And that's, you know, beautifully congruent for you, because you want to shine this light out there. So you're being it and you're being you at the same time.
That's it, exactly. I love that. On the other hand, I guess we all go through a journey, right? At different stages, we are different. Like for myself, 3-4 years ago, I had the same exactly, and I would compare. I would think, actually, I thought I was better than some people, and then in some other circumstances, and I thought, oh, that person's much better than me. So I was constantly comparing myself. And when I look back, and I thought, oh wow, how far I've grown. It's okay to not be okay as well.
Oh, absolutely, yeah, absolutely. There's no judgment here, and it's interesting because one of the things he's just said, they're talking about judgment when we think, and I've thought it as well, and you've just said, you know, honestly, that you've thought it as well. Sometimes you think, well, I'm better than these other people. But the problem with that, even that is a judgment, because if you think you're better than other people, subconsciously, you're telling yourself that there are going to be other people better than you.
Exactly.
And then that puts pressure on you in that sort of weird way. So, you know, so if you just think, well, we are all the same on one level, you know, we're all the same on one level. People have different skills and different abilities and different experiences and all of that. You could look at someone and say, oh, they've got more skills than me in that area. That's fine, because then you can realize that you could learn more skills to bring that skill level up. You know, we get a reflection back of what we are in life, right? If we give out more love, we get more back. And it's the same with feeling better than someone.
I love what you just said about you give more love and then you will get more love back. My personal transformation journey started from that. I was listening to Gary Zuko. He was explaining how, imagine if you throw whatever goes out will come back. Whatever goes up will come down. Exactly what you just said. He said, imagine if you throw a sharp knife up, and they're going to come down on you. And then imagine if you throw a pillow and then land it on you softly, or even better, if you send out love and that come back to you. I thought, wow, because I'm very visual, right? And when he said that, I saw that visual. I said, oh, I don't want that knife on me. No. And then
who would?
I started shifting. Okay, what do I want to receive? And then I started shifting, but then, you know, it's a gradual process. It's beautiful. Exactly. I guess that's why the confidence coach. Hey, I actually never heard of anyone call them a confidence coach.
Oh, wow. Well, that's quite an interesting story as well. Back in my 20s, I had a really bad a flu, really. It literally laid me out. I was at home with my parents still at that age, and I was laying in bed, and I had a little glass of water next to the bed, and I can remember thinking, I was so thirsty, and I just wanted to get that glass of water that was just over there, and I didn't even have the energy to move my hand from like there to there to get it was like a real effort. That's sort of, so it wasn't just a cold, it was like a real full-on sort of virus, flu. And it probably lasted, the main sort of symptoms probably lasted about 2 to 3 weeks. But then after that, it left me with a massive lack of confidence. And that manifested itself by being depression, anxiety, and then as I got a bit better, panic attacks, and even agoraphobia. You know, I didn't want to go out of the house, didn't want to see people socially, and all that social anxiety and things, because it just literally knocked my whole I guess it knocked me so hard physically. It was like a trauma, I guess. It knocked me so hard physically, it knocked my confidence. And that lasted for around about a year and a half. Something like that, and I had some light, just antidepressants and medication, nothing dramatic, but some. And I had this amazing guy as well who helped who was like a sort of a counselor, but he was really, see, he was really a coach, which is what I've found out now, and I can explain the difference. But in fact, I'll explain the difference now. So I believe that the difference between sort of kind of like therapy and coaching is more, one looks at the sort of issue and, you know, keeps focusing on that and tries to find the answer for that. And the other one, which is coaching, draws a line and looks forward. So that's the empowering bit for me. And that's why I love what I do now, because we sort of draw a line on whatever's gone in the past and we look forward, right? What can we do next? That's the empowering bit. You know, we don't have to keep reliving this stuff. It's gone. Let's look at what we can do next. So that's the difference. So anyway, he was kind of like that, but I only seeing that in retrospect. But so that happened. And then what are we, 2022 now? So about 10 years ago, my wife and I had a business. It was growing quite successfully, and then a number of things happened and we lost the whole lot. So it was really difficult. It was a retail business and we lost the whole thing. And so for about a year, it was like all of our income, my wife was employed by, I was employed by, and we just, you know, fairly recently had our daughter as well. So there was a lot of things going on at the time. And so for about a year, I was sort of, because it was like our baby, this business, we built that up over sort of 8 or 9 years, and put all the 24/7 hours in and everything else, and we lost the whole lot. So it was a period of sort of grieving, really, I suppose, because it was like our child sort of thing, this thing we'd nurtured and grown, but it was also this sort of anxious period. So I applied for other jobs and didn't actually get any responses. And I'm one of these people who loves interviews. Weirdly, a lot of people hate interviews, but I love interviews. Don't really get a chance to do interviews now, obviously for jobs. But anyway, but I love interviews, and I wasn't getting anything. Now, part of that was who knows why. It doesn't really matter why, actually. So I thought, okay, so I'm just going to need to do something else. So what I decided to do was, and I'd had a history of working for a number of blue chip companies before our business, and I'd worked in retail, I'd worked in car industry, I'd sold Porsche for a while, MG sports cars, I'd worked for big radio station here. So I sort of knew about sales and marketing and all of that sort of thing. So I set up just a little sales and marketing training, just solo business, just for helping people with that, which really was coaching. So I say that's where I started my coaching, because one of the areas in that was, I am getting to the bit about why I'm a confidence coach, which was the original question. So one of the areas in there was, one of the things I created was a thing called Powerful Presenting, which was a little 5-hour workshop where people would come along. We'd talk about skills, we'd talk about methods, we'd talk about how to reduce fear, how to increase confidence, funnily enough, how to perform, if you like, in front of people, again, authentically, and not putting extra pressure on ourselves, in fact turning the pressure right down, all of that. And it was like a 5-hour workshop, and there would be opportunity to practice that, in front of the group. We'd have some fun things to sort of present about, like present about the world or something. It doesn't have to be about ourselves. So we did all that, and then at the end of that workshop, I had this little sheet. So this was probably about 2015. Now we're talking, something I'm not quite sure on the years. And I had this little sheet which said, what did you get from the workshop? Expecting people to give me specifics like, look around the room, look around the room and look at people individually and talk to individuals, and then talk to an individual over there, and all that, different skills you can use with public speaking. And everyone just wrote down one word: confidence. And it was just like, boom, this is what I'm meant to do. And it was like that thing 25 years, 30 years before that happened to me, just, and what I'm doing now just went connected. And I thought, well, if I can give people confidence, that's so much more important than sales and marketing. And it's really important for sales and marketing, but it's so much more because that's about their whole life, you know, and that's about being the amazing person that you are. So yeah, literally kind of overnight, I just transformed into confidence coaching as a sort of a specialist area, if you like. And the journey from there has just gone on, and just beautiful to see people shine again, you know. So yeah, so that's how I became a confidence coach.
Between when you had a virus infection and then you felt you lost the confidence to where you started your business with your wife, what about, how did you get back on your feet?
So that happened over a period of time, but that was because I didn't know how to do it. I was sort of finding my way how to do it, I guess, in lots of ways. So one of the things I do now is I help people do that really quickly. I mean, when I was writing that back in my 20s, I thought, this is it, this is my life now. In fact, one doctor even said to me, you've got this for life now. And I thought, you know, as I realized and came out of it, I thought, well, that's not good enough for me. You know, I want to find another way. So I did, and I haven't had it since. People can influence us so easily with their words, you know, and especially if they're in a position of, let's call them an expert, you know, because then you think, well, if they're an expert, what they're saying is correct. You know, and I would say to anyone watching this now, if you're thinking, oh yeah, Chris is an expert, what he's saying is correct, you know, don't just take my word for it, test it, sort of thing, for yourself. So to go back to some of the things that happen, so one of the things, don't listen to people who aren't where you want to be, is what I would say, or perhaps haven't had the experience of what you want, because you'll get a lot of advice from people who maybe have intellectualized that but haven't maybe gone through it. The thing with the doctor saying that for life, you know, for a while I believed that, and of course, if you believe it, then that is your reality. So the first thing is to not believe that. So the second thing is, with the sort of agoraphobia thing, one of the things that happened there was, you know, I literally didn't want to go out of the front door for a while. It's quite a short while, this particular period. And again, just like, see, this is why this thing with the video that happened last year and me shining and all that worked, because I knew the process. So the process was to just open the door one day and just have a look outside. And then you can kind of shut that. I don't remember if this is exactly what happened, but this is in my memory how it happened. And then you can just kind of shut the door, and then your brain thinks, oh, wow, you've moved forward, you've opened the door, right? And then the next day, it's ready to do a bit more. So you can open the door and you can just walk down the front path, maybe 10 yards or 10 meters, and then come back in. You know, there's no need to, you know, you put all that pressure on yourself. Come back in, shut the door, great. Notice it, notice what you've done, notice your achievements. That's so important, because when you notice those achievements, now again, all this sort of neurochemistry and everything starts to sort of work in your favor. And it's like, wow, you know, I've done that, and I wonder if I can do a bit more tomorrow. And so now it's turning into, instead of sort of fear, it's turning into excitement. So now you're sort of going out again, and you can walk down the road a bit, and then you're like, wow, look at me, I've walked down the road, you know, and you just build it up, and then really quickly you can get out of that. So step by step, you can sort of create, you know, you can walk from, in the UK, you could walk from Land's End in Cornwall to John O'Groats in Scotland, step by step. So you can go a long way, step by step. The anxiety side is really thinking, and our thoughts, you know, create our feelings, and that creates our actions, right? So we can adjust our thinking. You know, we are not our thoughts, we're the thinker of our thoughts. So when we think intentionally and think positively, in fact, when we think of positive things, we can't really think of negative things at the same time. It's really hard to think of two sort of emotions at the same time. So why not think of great things, you know? And it's not about rose tinted glasses, it's about where we focus. Just notice your thoughts. And the final one, the sort of the four, was the sort of the depression side. Is, I don't know whether you've ever suffered depression, but it's almost like this. So it's not just, a lot of people think, oh, that's just feeling sad, depression, feeling sad, that's what it sounds like. But it's not. It's more a case of like a lethargy, like you just literally haven't got the will, or even the will to have the will to do things. It's a weird sort of thing to describe, but not a pleasant place to be, because you just don't want to do anything really. And what you have to do there is do things before you're ready. And then that just starts all the machinery working again. It's almost like, I don't know, I guess it's almost like jump starting the car. If the car won't start and you push the car and it sort of starts the machinery and then it jump starts and it goes, I guess it's a bit like that. And you can just start doing things, and they will be uncomfortable and they will feel horrible at first, but you just do them. And then what tends to happen, what happened for me, is that you realize you can do these things then, and then after that the joy comes in, because you've got no joy when you're depressed. You just feel sort of flat, and then after that the joy comes in. So that's just 4 little examples of those 4 areas, but all of those things now I bring to letting people be their amazing selves.
I love your system process. You had a more set up step. I love that. How would you describe your lowest lows, or during that period of time when you were in your 20s that you were really lost your confidence? How would you describe that, Chris?
So my lowest low was probably just wanting to stay in bed all the time and pull the cover up and just stay there forever. That was kind of like my life. So it was almost like the opposite of ultimate confidence. It was like, but in a way, in a funny sort of way, that I was, so there's no judgment there, because I was being me at that time, right? It was just where I was. So there's never any judgment.
Everything that we've been through blessings. I call them blessings, because the challenges, if you didn't go through all those things, you wouldn't be able to share with others exactly what you just said, rather than listening to an authoritative figure who may never experience that, and listening to someone like yourself, been through, and how you went through. That's what exactly I wanted to get for people who, oh wow, Chris, you were in bed, you couldn't get out of bed. I'm exactly like that. How can you help me get out of bed? How can I become? You mentioned all the steps. Did you have a coach, or how did you figure it out?
This guy who was in our health service at the time, so he was like, he came and he would come in, and he, as I say, looking back, he was like a coach, because he would he had experience of what worked, because obviously he worked with a lot of people like it, so he knew, he could see the pattern. A lot of coaching is patterns and recognizing patterns, and that can be patterns of thinking or patterns of action. And the more you sort of coach people, the more you just see these patterns straight away. And then when you start to break the patterns, that's when the magic sort of happens. So and as I say, when you start, it's really when the client starts to break the patterns. No coach can do anything for anyone, actually. It's the client, it's all the client. My clients are amazing. I just wanted to mention, actually, one of the things that you said, or that you mentioned, was about how you make these things make you stronger. I'm so grateful, actually, for that period in my life, because now I know that I'll never have that again. I'm so much mentally stronger now because of all that I went through, because I was sort of down in those depths, and now I know how to get out. So even if there is ever, I'm not saying I'm perfect. I'm not saying these odd feelings never come. I don't never have anxiety, or I don't never feel a little bit depressed, like the day where you sort of feel you don't want to do something. But now I know exactly what to do.
When you were in that, and so it took you, or how long did it take you for the whole process when you were really depressed and you couldn't get out of bed, until you could, one step at a time?
I mean, some of those things were like a week, so it wasn't like dramatic, it wasn't like too long, but the journey's still going. because I'm still learning new ways to get even more relaxed, and new ways to get even more joy, and new ways to feel even more love. You know, all of these things are continual. I don't think they ever end.
I guess it's, if we stop learning, I mean, we die.
Yeah,
Yeah.
kind of, yeah. Or at least internally.
Yeah, it's,
You know,
we stop growing. I ask questions, so the people who going through, because you just been through, right? You're still going to your next level, like what you said.
Yeah, always.
That's right. So then you can help those who are going through what you've been through, and then you can say, all right, well, I've been there, I know where to go. And then you can hold hands. In your coaching, when you are actually coaching someone, what's your process?
I haven't got a whiteboard or anything to do, but I can
I'm
give
very
you.
visual. If you
I
tell
can
me,
give you a verbal visual if that's not if that's not a contradiction in terms. I think we have 3 zones. Okay, so we've got our comfort zone. So I think of them as 3 circles. So in the middle we've got our comfort zone. So I'm not holding that very well, about like that. And that's where, you know, everything's fine. Certainly on the surface, everything's sort of fine. You know, we're quite comfortable, funnily enough. You know, we're quite happy there. And then outside of that, we've got what I call our stretch zone. Okay, and that's where you come out of the front door. That's where you press go live. Okay, that's our stretch zone. And then we've got our impossible zone. Okay, so what I mean by that is it's only impossible for now. To give you an example of that is, when I was back in December, I couldn't have gone live to 50,000 people, knowing 50,000 people would have been watching. I wouldn't have a problem with that today, but back in December, I couldn't have done that. So it was impossible at that time. Okay, so that was out in the impossible zone. So what I would suggest is anything that you're trying to do, anything that you want to do, and don't use the word try, because try means you're not doing it. You try and open a door, and it means you haven't opened the door, right? So anything that you want to do, start in your stretch zone. And if so, I'm going to use a weight analogy now. I'm not an expert on weight loss, but I'm going to use a weight analogy just because it makes it a bit clearer. If you want to lose 10 stone in weight, okay, I don't know what that equates to in kilos, but say 100 kilo, I don't know, that's too much, 50 kilos in weight, whatever it is, I don't know, can't do the comparison, but let's use stones and pounds. If you want to lose 10 stone in weight, and you can think, right, I'm going to lose 10 stone in a week. So where would you put that on that little 3 circles? I think most people will probably put that in the impossible zone, unless you're sort of chopping your arms and legs off and things. So what you can do then is you just wind it back. So you just wind it back. So what about 9 stone in a week? So, oh, no, that's still impossible. 8 stone, no, still impossible. 7, 6, no. Okay, what about a stone in a week? Not really. What about 7 pounds in a week? Well, that's getting, now we're sort of talking about possible there, but it's still too much of a stretch out of my comfort zone. Okay, let's bring it back down. What about ½ pound? Oh no, that's way in my comfort zone. I can do that easily. Okay, bring it back out again. Bring it back out. 2 pounds in a week. Yeah, that's a stretch for me, but it's not impossible. Okay, work there. And what happens is when you lose that 2 pounds, then your comfort zone expands, because now you know you can lose 2 pounds in a week. So now maybe your stretch zone is like 3 pounds in a week. Do you see what I'm saying? So that's the way to use it. Use it as a sliding scale. And you can do that with absolutely anything. You can do it with going online. You can do it with creating a podcast. You can do it with anything. I haven't found anything yet that you can't use that method with.
I love your analogy too, how just the one at a time. When I was in marketing, like my background's marketing and business, I always, process and everything. Now I'm going, go with the flow. But I love that, for people who need that kind of support. It's so easy, right? Well, I do take this step today and take next step and tomorrow. And baby step. That's what I'm taking too.
As coaches, one of our things is to look for patterns if you want change. And the other thing that happens is when you look back in history, there are patterns to all of these things, and so whether it's the kitten to the cat, or the comfort zone to the impossible zone. The other thing, by the way, the impossible zone shrinks in as well, so what seemed impossible becomes more possible as you go through. And the other thing, actually, I must just mention this because it's important, is that if you just work in the comfort zone, what also tends to happen is that shrinks. You don't want that to happen, or you will just end up laying in bed.
That's it, exactly. So you need to get out of the comfort zone in order to go to the next level. Beautiful. I love how you really break things down to little steps, and then so people can take baby steps rather than thinking, oh my gosh, that's impossible, I can't do it. You mentioned about how to become confident in those steps, but how do you go within? What do you do to go within? Because a lot of people, I wasn't 4 years ago, at least, I was just living my life like how I have always been trained to, like, in the system. And I wasn't aware of, oh wow, there's another side of the world, and then people knew different things. At a time I wasn't completely, I call sleepwalking.
Sleepwalking is a great description. I mean, one of the other people I worked with, who was, again, super successful, had the cars, the house, everything. They were running patterns that meant they could have all those things, right? But it didn't bring them joy, and it didn't bring them happiness. And that was really it was like their sort of soul had been sucked out of them. So and I think there's a lot of people who are like that, where they're outwardly successful, but they just don't have the joy in life. Part of being authentic and being confident is to choose, you get to choose to have some of that joy as well. It doesn't mean you have to give the other stuff up, but you can have that joy as well. One of the things that I'll talk about with clients, and we'll do little actions, it's everything sort of one-to-one clients, everything's bespoke, it's about their particular situation. But one of the things that we do is about reaching out to other people and offering some love to other people, right? We talked about this a little bit earlier on, and that can just be as simple as messaging sometimes. It can just be a quick message to someone. But some of these people are just so driven, they don't even think about that, and they're missing out on all this beautiful world. A bit like you sort of said, you're in the sort of system and you sort of miss out on all this stuff out here. So sometimes you can just look at examples of that, and if that resonates, and sometimes it is in their stretch zone because they wouldn't be used to. They say, well, people say to me, well, I would never do that. I can't send a text out to somebody like that. So I'll say, okay, well, I'll do it with you then. Let's do it together. I'll send some now on my phone right now. Let's send these texts out, and we'll do it in a session, and then we'll get a few response. Oh, how beautiful, Chris. Oh, thanks for that, or whatever. And they'll say, and so they sort of kind of see it happening. And then they think, oh yeah, maybe I can do that as well. So then they'll maybe just sort of send a couple, and then they'll get a great response back. Oh, that's so beautiful. Thank you for saying that. You made my day. And now they've got a whole new mindset of, I can have all this success, but also I can send out some love to people and get that beautiful feeling.
That sounds to me is service. So rather than focusing on ourselves, and we go outwards and then we give. And I think Tony Robbins mentioned that, right? When he gave his last $20 something to the boy, and he feels so empowered, even though he had nothing. Because when we reach out, somehow we feel good inside.
Absolutely. If you ever think you've got no value, go and do something for someone else, and you'll see your value. It doesn't have to be giving them money, by the way. It can be sending a text. If you haven't even got a phone, you can just go and give someone a hug or whatever. It doesn't matter. Your value is we're all just as valuable.
Yeah, we all have something to give. A smile, a hug, a wave, hello. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
For those, we're very successful. What's your first step?
Everyone's different, really. So there are you know, there's many things that I've learned since my 20s, really. So 30 odd years. It's about their mountain, not my mountain.
Yeah.
It's
Okay.
about their destination, not my destination. It's not about me. It's nothing to do with me. It's all about them. We can show examples, and we can show alternatives. Actually, that's quite a powerful thing. If you don't know the alternative, you don't really have a choice, you know. But if you know the alternative, then you can make that choice.
The most important thing is really go within, right? And realize my real worth, not what I have, like what I just said, not what I have, what I do, what other people think of me. It's look inside. Who am I? Yeah. And that's the question.
Because that's all you have. Because you're the only person that has that for your whole life. I had a client who was self-employed, then had the confidence to go back to being employed, and it changed their life because the self-employment route just wasn't right for them. And they were struggling and battling with that all the time, but they were brilliant as an employee and a well-paid employee. And so it actually changed her whole bank balance and everything. She went out and bought a new car and things, you know, and had this big beaming smile because she had all that pressure gone, because she didn't need to be what she thought other people needed her to be. The ultimate confidence is being you and being love, you know, because we're all love at our hearts. Okay, so if there's not that love in your life, then something's gone wrong somewhere, and it's nothing wrong with you. It's just something in the sort of whole structure that's gone a bit wrong. So we can just turn that around. You can still do exactly what you're doing before, but now you've got a new energy and a new light behind your eyes to do it.
I actually think of a few people that I know who are feeling like that, just outwardly very successful, but feeling empty, feeling burned out, feeling lack of joy. What would you say to them first?
Okay. I love you. That's what I would say to them. And you should love you as much as I do. And love yourself enough to get still, not just for like a minute or two, just get really still. And just ask yourself the question, what do I want from my life? What do I really want? Not materially, what do I want at my core? What will I get to the end of my life and think, I'm so grateful I had that? And listen for those answers and notice those answers. And when you've got those answers, that's the work. That's what you start on.
Beautiful. I love how it's like a meditative approach, right? Because we have all the answers within ourselves.
Yeah, we do. Coaching session doesn't have to be bam, bam, do this, do that, bam, bam. So often, some of the most powerful sessions are just space. Beautiful. Safe space, slow down. Let's just ask almost one question, you know, and what do we do about that? And let's listen for the answers. And let's explore that.
Is there anything else that you would like to share, or anything that you wish I had asked?
Nobody is above you and nobody is below you. We're all one. We're all one. We might be in different circumstances, but we are all one. We're all love, actually. You know, we're created from love, whatever way you believe that. So just put some more love into your life, however you need to do that. Truly doing that is not doing it for any return at all. You know, it's limitless. You can't give so much that you've got none left.
Yeah, abundance. That's what I call. We are unique. We are not better or worse, not good or not bad. We are uniquely us.
Yeah, everything else is just a label.
For me, that it took years to realize that, though. I wonder when.
Me too.
Yeah. So obviously it takes baby steps again, right?
Well, that's what a coach does, really. is they speed up the process. So it doesn't mean you're never going to get there on your own, but a coach will speed up the process, whatever they're coaching on. In a swimming coach, for example, you could fall in the pool and you might find your way to the edge with getting a few mouthfuls of water and what have you, and it might not be very pretty. But if you have a swimming coach, they'll get you there quicker and safer. It's not about that you can't do these things yourself. It's more about have someone who can guide you, who has been through some of this stuff, and can sort of be that bridge across the sort of cavern, so you don't have to go down there and fall on the rocks and get back up the other side and not sure what's happening, but you've got your bridge and you can just walk across it.
So that's like what I call the podcast, Let Your Light Shine. Help others find their way out of the darkness. Because because you've been through, right, the people are still walking in the dark. They need someone shining the light for them to know where to go. They could be going the wrong direction and completely miss the mark and then have to go all the way back. Thank you, Chris. That's beautiful.
So well.
Yeah.
So well.
Okay. So I asked you, how can people connect with you? And then you said via Facebook. So that's your personal account.
Yeah. Facebook. Yeah. Personal Facebook. They can message me. They can go to my website, triggermyconfidence.com.
Let your light shine. Help others find their way out of the darkness. Extraordinarily inspiring stories from ordinary people like you and I. I believe we are all extraordinary, yet we're all ordinary. Let your light shine.